San Francisco's Reparation Committee proposes a $5 million payment to each black resident. And this is the kind of thing that's going to make the whole of United States against reparations. This is an awful plan, but I'm going to read this and then I'll tell you my thoughts. I 100% believe that blacks, specifically American descendants of slaves, deserve reparations, not in this way. And I'm going to explain why. So CNN, right? This is a CNN article. A committee in San Francisco has released an extensive proposal for reparations that includes a one-time payment of $5 million to each eligible black resident. The San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee, created in 2020 under the city's Human Rights Commission, was tasked to develop a plan to address the institutional city-sanctioned harm that has been inflicted upon African American communities. The committee has no authority to implement its recommendations. Director of the Economic Rights at the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee said the San Francisco Board of Advisors received a draft of a 60-page proposal in late December and is expected to accept, amend, or reject. A hearing to discuss their decision has not been set yet. So here's my issue. So basically the whole article just explains how, it's specifically for, you have to be able to prove that you're a descendant of slaves and all this stuff. But giving $5 million to individuals, historically, if we look at the way that, this is going to sound bad, I don't know how to say this, but we need to spread financial literacy amongst the black community. Giving somebody a $5 million check is not going to make them financially literate, right? And we have seen time and time again, especially with rappers, they come upon all this money and that money goes. This kind of money will disappear within 10 years, which will be a curse to every generation that has suffered from the slave trade. So now what am I proposing? When we look at reparations, we have to create systematic change through investing in for equity in the educational system, the financial literacy system for black people, housing, home ownership, giving black families access to home ownership, home ownership grants, giving them free houses and just putting it in their names. Why? Because especially with home ownership, this is how white Americans have been able to build their wealth by, it was always easier for them to get home loans, and they passed on these houses to the next generations who are able to build wealth. So that's one of the main ones that I would target. Home ownership, institutions that work towards economic empowerment, business loans, not even business loans, business grants, all these things that help people build economy, especially within the black community, right? So, slavery, awful, disgusting thing. But there was a systematic oppression of the black community. And so we have to attack it systematically, because if you give, every black San Francisco resident $5 million, you're going to see people spending money in white-owned businesses. Like, who was it? Bernard Arnault, I can't say his name, the richest man in the world right now. I think he made most of his wealth, because he's the richest man in the world now. He almost doubled his net worth or something like that during the pandemic, when people were getting PPP loans, when people were getting all these small business loans, right? All these loans and stimulus checks that we were getting. People were going out buying luxury goods that they had no business buying, making people like him richer. So unfortunately, I made a video earlier, and it was just about how The dollar circulates multiple times within other communities, like up to 16 times within some communities. But in the Black community, it's literally, 16 days within other communities. Black community, it's seconds. So we need to create, well, first of all, we need to create more Black businesses. So grants for Black businesses. I didn't even say loans. I said grants. Grants for home ownership. All the things that can work towards economic empowerment, and building financial wealth for within the Black community, right? Because this attack on the slavery and after, it's all been an attack on Black economic empowerment. So we need to think about it from a financially literate stance and say, how do we create Black economic empowerment that is sustainable? Because it's not just about giving money to this generation. How can you tell me that people that suffered 500 years ago until, however many hundred years ago that slavery ended, the people that suffered then is so all that money that they is just going to be given to one generation for them to blow the money? It's absurd. It has to be generational wealth that is created. It has to be systems that builds generational wealth and allows the Black community to grow, not just today, but into the future. Because when you don't do that, when you just give people checks, this is exactly what, our ancestors in Africa were doing, trading Black people, but they weren't getting checks, $5 million checks. They were getting umbrellas, gin bottles. They were getting stupid stuff. And what do they have to show for it today? Go to Africa and look what it looks like. I'm from Nigeria. I'm Nigerian American. I made a documentary on the Great Divide, and I went to one of the biggest slave ports, Badagry slave port, run down. I saw some of the gin bottles. I saw the umbrellas, all the stuff that they used to trade Black Americans with. And today, who has the wealth? It's those in America. So yes, of course, a gin bottle is ridiculous, right? But in those times, there was no technology. There was none of all the things that we experience now. But still, I still think $5 million is still a version of that. It's just like a little bit better, right? It's a version of a gin bottle, the 21st century version, because that $5 million can finish in a year or two. It can finish. $5 million, you buy one jet, you don't have money anymore. And it'll be a cheap jet. It won't even be a flashy one. $5 million, you can buy a Bugatti, and a house, and you're done. You don't have any money left. So, we have to be very strategic with how we build financial literacy in the Black community and how we build Black economic empowerment. And this is not the solution. This solution is ridiculous. And it's so offensive to me because this is what white-run media wants to push as a representation of reparations. When you make silly proposals like this is what the media is going to push. They're not going to push the proposals that we have that are about Black economic empowerment. They won't push, like what I'm saying, this is not going to be pushed. They're going to push these silly requests so they can use that to say, look at what they're asking for, $5 million, so they could go and buy Lamborghinis and go and hold money phones and act like freaking hooligans. Like those, I'm not even going to say it. You know what I'm saying, though? That's how they think, and that's why they're promoting this ridiculousness. It is just so ignorant. And look at the woman standing up, clapping her hands. Anyway, to all Black people watching this and everybody, go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Go read all of Robert Kiyosaki's books so you can build the foundations of your financial literacy. I also have another YouTube channel called The University of Making Money. Link down below. Go check that out. And I try my best to bring financial literacy, especially to Black community, Black people, women, all of that. So I spread a lot of information. I have a course out right now about how to make money in AI. Go check that too. I'm going to have so many links below. And I have a few products that I'm coming out with. Stay tuned. And of course, I have an Andrew Tate documentary coming at the early next month. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, so let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. This is ridiculous. We cannot let this kind of stuff represent reparations. This is not what we want the media to be pushing. This is not the conversation we want to be having around reparations for the Black community. So we have to do our best to spread as much financial literacy as possible. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you think people should get $5 million checks so they can flex and hold money phones and Bugattis? Bugatti, like, what's his name? Agitate. Do you think that's what people need to do? Or do you think they need to get financially literate, learn how to own homes, right? Give them some grants, not a loan, but some grants to buy some houses so they can have houses in their name that they own, not owned by the bank, and spread sustainable Black economic empowerment, not just for today, but to the next generations and generations of Black people. In fact, I think that we need to position it so that for the next 500 years, Black people are always getting checks, kind of like how Rockefeller built a bank. He built a bank, and 7 generations, I think his family, I can't remember if they're on the 12th generation now, but they're all still rich, versus his competitor, Vanderbilt, who they lost the money within 3 generations. Is that what you want? Like, even like 3 generations, this kind of money, you won't even lose it in 3 generations. You'll lose it in a month. Maybe not a month, but maybe 10 years. You'll lose that money. We can't spread messages like this. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. A peace.